Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So we've been doing a lot of coverage on the Do Kwon TFL SEC United States situation and everything that's sort of playing out with that. We have seen that obviously in the crypto.com space that LUNC is being delisted. Whether this is anything to do with any of this stuff that's going on, we really don't know at the moment until we have more specific evidence that points that this is why everything's happening and all of the different things. There's not enough realistically to link everything together at the moment, but there has been a filing for bankruptcy from TFL, and it's specifically in Delaware. And I want to go over this. I want to get this information out there that this is good and this is bad. There's different ways that you can more or less look at this kind of thing, and it's not as bad on the face of it as it seems. So realistically, to understand what they filed and everything in between, you need to know what they filed for. And it's a Chapter 11. It's really important to understand this because there's huge differences between a Chapter 7, a Chapter 11 and stuff like this. If we go on the US courts websites where we can actually search for this case number, and it's all true, it is happening, and they have filed for bankruptcy. And like I said, it's specifically in Delaware, and there is a document going around, and I'm not going to get into it. It's a lot of more or less legal speak and stuff like that. But ultimately, this is what you would see as preparation. And what I think this is a strong signal to say DK is definitely heading to the United States. If they're preparing themselves in the United States and shutting down different parts of the organization, it's a clear sign that they're reorganizing the structure in preparation to possibly be able to keep doing what TFL are doing, i.e. Chris Amani continuing to run the TFL brand, business, logo, everything like that. The Chapter 11 specifically allows for that. So in a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the company doesn't go out of business, okay? So it's allowed to reorganize, and the company filing for a Chapter 11, they more or less are hoping to return to what is seen as normal business operations. So this is all to do with like the health of realistically their push towards wanting to fight this. And it seems like they're wanting to fight this in court. So it's going to be really interesting. This is generally a bankruptcy that's filed by bigger corporations that need time to restructure things. And to more or less say in short is there's probably debts they can't manage and they need to start filing for bankruptcy in these different sorts of areas. So this can allow a company a totally new, fresh start. And this is what I'm saying about Chris Armani and that kind of situation that's playing out. This still allows for them to continue doing what they're doing. So this is actually a good sign for us in crypto. And it shows us that the preparations are being made for TFL to continue doing what they're doing and continuing to push forward. And for me, this is a pretty strong sign, which more or less points to that. So public companies tend to file these Chapter 11s rather than a Chapter 7 because it allows them to continue to run their business and participate in the bankruptcy process. So rather than simply just turning over all of the assets to a trustee for liquidation, as it would have to happen in a Chapter 7, a company entering a Chapter 11 has the opportunity to retool its financial framework and ideally return to profitability. If the process fails, all of the company's assets are liquidated and stakeholders are paid off according to the absolute priority as described above. So once again, we can look at this from both sides of the coin, right? And what I'm giving you is the specific actual explanation behind a Chapter 11 after doing some research and different things like that. So like I said, when a company files for this Chapter 11, it's going to be assigned a committee that represents the interests of the creditors and the stockholders. So this committee works with the with the companies to develop a plan. The reason why I'm saying company is because more or less it's a bit weird, right? Because the shareholders that would normally be looked at, they're not really shareholders. They are people who have bought into Luna, USTC, so to speak. So I think it's going to get a little bit weird. And like I said a few times previously in my previous videos, is they're probably going to be using DK's case as a base format of how to move forward and how to approach these sort of situations. I think we're going to see a lot of new stuff coming out of the woodwork and different things, but them specifically doing this Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it could work both ways, right? Because if they fail like I was saying, to abide by what they're supposed to abide by, they could just end up getting Chapter 7 anyway, and it just gets all liquidated, and it ends up how more or less nobody wants this to end up in a Chapter 7. I think it's really important that we do cover this. We keep covering, we keep looking for it, specifically with BTC halving like 80 days away, according to this gauge up here. But I'm going to leave links to this in the description. Does this mean, okay, folks, does this mean everything's going down, it's all going to crash, it's all going to die, it's over? No. This looks like legal preparations from both sides, from both parties, and they're getting ready to fight this, be it the SEC fighting DK or DK fighting the SEC, whatever. They're preparing for it, and we're seeing signs of this now. What do you folks think? A lot of you are not really chiming in, so to speak, too much on where you think DK is going to go. Do you think he's going to go to back to his home country? Do you think he's going to go to the United States? Do you think he's going to stay in Montenegro for some time? What do you think really are the end results of this? Because something I've been saying is about Daniel Shin. Also, the likelihood is South Korean authorities have been holding all of the different TFL staff they could hold and keeping them in South Korea. The likelihood is they'll probably get extradited to the United States to be part of this whole trial, this whole case. And something I keep saying to people is, when are they all going to start throwing each other under the bus? When are we going to reach a point where all of these fake transactions that have been swept under the rug and it's all been taken out of context, what happens when that gets context? What happens when that gets into a courtroom and they start to use all of these different things? It's no longer someone trying to convince you through Twitter that they're not guilty of something. It is not going to be like that. This is going to be a specific evidence-based trial, and it's all going to be through the legal routes. It's a totally different ballroom, so to speak. And yeah, for me, I'm just going to keep covering this. I'm going to keep going over it. I'm going to keep on the tailwind of this thing so we can be better prepared, because like I said, there's a crossroads coming, and if we don't prepare for this crossroads, we could be subject to some kind of serious bigger crash, or we could get delisted everywhere. And ultimately, no one was sending those signals out to everybody, sort of saying, well, you know, these things are going on in the background, we should really prepare for them. I think it's important. I never like to ignore the crack in the floor. If the crack in the floor is getting bigger, then we need to pay attention to it. We need to understand so we can better prepare for the future ahead. And throughout all of this, I'll keep saying, right, there's nothing that stops the LUNC chain from rebranding and going down its own path of these different kind of things and really starting to separate themselves from it. But at the same time, right, it's all going to be as this unfolds. And realistically, a lot of people are sweeping this under the rug. They're not speaking about it. They're not covering it. And it's one of those ones, right? It doesn't do anything positive for that person's channel. It's not something people are going to click on. It's not going to be something people are too interested in. People normally ignore these kind of warning signs, but the warning signs are there. They are happening. I'll leave links to all of this in the description, folks. Stay safe, stay humble, stay aware. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.